All right, welcome back, reality designers. Denny Van here. Today we're going to be navigating with Anne Marie Stroud. Hey, welcome, darling. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm very happy and I'm very happy to be here as well. Especially, we're doing cross the world podcasting right here, and I love that.
Yes, Germany and Chicago. Well, where in Germany are you?
I'm in the south. I'm in a city called Jena. Why I was saying south? Because I came from the south yesterday, but now I'm in Jena in Germany, right in the middle of the country.
There you go. I guess Chicago is kind of right in the middle of the country too, almost kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
They call it the Mid-America for a reason, but it's also the Windy City. So, Anne Marie,
Hmm.
um, you're talking to reality designers, and reality designers love to create their reality. And your story is very intriguing because so many of us can relate. But the first thing I want to ask you is, what is your human design?
I'm a manifestor. I'm 4/6 planic. So I've realized that I guess like 2 years ago, a projector brought me on. So she's like, oh, here, check your design. And I was like, got it. I forgot what it was. I didn't get interested in it. And then last year, for some reason, I looked into it and then just had my mind blown in baby steps. Like every time I dug into it more, it was like, how do you read me so well? And I realized all of the things that I knew as a child when you were seeking for validation, like, is this normal? Like the way that I think, like the way I can hear my intuition, the way I can see things, and this, like all of these things. And people are like, no, And it doesn't help that I also have ADHD, and I was late diagnosed like 2 years ago at the nice age of 35. And so I now have a lot to unravel and a lot to unlearn, and a lot of reckonings as well. Because when you look at it in retrospect, so many things make sense, and just embracing the validity of it all and just coming back to your roots and your sense of self, or even finding that, has been a big theme of mine for the past 10 years. And so yeah, I love being here in just mindful spaces where people are actually realizing they can shape their life in a way that they want through whatever media you want. There's all these different disciplines and ideas and ideologies out there, but it's ultimately whatever makes you feel happy, right? Without causing distress to other people. But you know, I love I
It's
love that we
interesting
are
that,
powerful.
yes, it is powerful. And I'm a manifestor too, and I'm a 5/1.
Yay.
So
Oh.
we're drawn together, but it's interesting that you talk about how, as a child, it's like all starting to make sense. Okay, that's why this happened. And fear of other people's projections onto us is pretty
Hmm.
real, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
you talk about a little bit, and this is where I can totally relate because I'm the second oldest of 8 kids. And so people pleasing was very well ingrained in me. It was
Mm.
definitely conditioned in my programming. So you talk about people pleasing. Tell us more about that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So people pleasing is what I grew up with for most of my life. It's been very much ingrained. A lot of people still try to like get me back on that road, but no can do. It is really, yeah, it's so weird, especially because I referenced the ADHD and the manifest of when people see you and you just show up and they instantly dislike you. And you don't know what you did except just breathe and exist. And people, like you said, project a lot of things, regardless of what your neurotype is or your human design type. Like they just do that all the time. But it's, as a kid, you don't know that a lot of people just reflect their own personal lens and view and opinions and stories onto other people. And they might not even see you as a person, just like something to vent at or blame. Right. But you don't know that as a kid. It all feels very much insular in the way feels that you are responsible for everybody, and then if you're especially being raised as like the big sister, like the person who also helps out and looks after everybody and like tries to keep the peace and responsible for people's emotions, which you're not responsible for other people's emotions ever, really.
Tough
So I
lesson
didn't
to
know
learn
that.
sometimes, right?
I still have to remind myself because it's still a trigger sometimes, because it feels like I want to fix everybody. I was just like, I know what it feels like to feel like lonely and misunderstood and to be really depressed, right? And so I don't want it for anybody. But sometimes, because I used to be in this very victim martyrhood, right? I was like finding validation in that to be woe is me, pity me, you bond with other people over that, or you just find the drama and you find some validation in that.
And as
And
soon as you don't play
sometimes,
the victim anymore, those friends are
oh
gone.
yeah, they are. And then suddenly it feels even worse because you're not all by yourself, and really making peace with that actually being good, because they did not give you the peace at all. It's actually good that you separated ways, even if the friendship was really valuable at that moment. Sometimes it is seasonal, sometimes it's really a lesson you needed to learn, sometimes you need to learn it multiple times. And yeah, just I had but yeah, ultimately everything has a reason, and sometimes really you can't do anything. Even, like I said, I wanted to fix a lot of people, and as a manifester, which I didn't know I was, and like the power that I have, we impact people just by existing, just by stepping into a room. People will look at me, and I was like, oh, I don't want any attention. Okay, thank you. But I also then see people, like, because I have the right cross of penetration. So like I see through people. Like you can't fool me because I'm really good at masking. I'm really good at telling myself stories. I've done it all. Nobody can
It
fool me
makes
on that.
sense that you're a photographer the way you are.
Yeah,
Totally.
because I read people. And for me, the photography came in like even as a kid, because people didn't understand me. They didn't understand my brain. They didn't understand what I was seeing because I'm visual. Like you tell me a story, my brain plays a movie. I will see, and then that's why I don't like gory details because I see them. I don't want to see that thing. And I felt like, I don't know what you mean. You don't understand me, because my brain is very different to what people would have expected saying the things, Again, most people,
So tell
everybody
us,
thinks differently.
I
Yeah,
want to back up a little bit. Tell us more
sure.
about this right angle cross. What is it and what does it mean to you?
I haven't really dug into it too much because, like I said, I do it in baby steps because it's very overwhelming. But what I
That's
understood with
important. Yes.
yeah. And I don't want to, scare myself away, or then just, you know, dig myself into this rabbit hole where I'm just making this one thing now my identity without seeing the bigger picture. Because I've always been big on a bigger picture. I'm not like, I like details, but either I have my saturation point and then I need to jump off, or if I miss that, I will not get out. And I know I'm digging, and it doesn't make any sense. So like I'm always the extremes, right? And so like I have to be very because I'm splenic, it's really hard for me sometimes to just actually act on it because it's so quiet and it will shut up. Like it says its thing, it shuts up. And then I'm like, oh my God, I forgot the message. What was it again? And it's just quiet, right? So like the right angle cause
Interesting.
of penetration is, well, from what I understand, again, I'm not an expert, but it's really penetrating through people, like doubling down on this manifesto vibe where you just affect people in some way. Like people feel your presence, but I also see through them. So like if they put out an act, if they're like, pretending to be like really nice person and they just have like an agenda, I will know. My spleen will be like, it's never been wrong as far as I know. Like it has warned me of like very dodgy people where everybody was like, give them a chance, don't be like that. I can see in your face, because I don't have a poker face. I can see you don't like them. They didn't do anything. I'm like, I don't want them to do anything. That's exactly why I don't trust them, because I know they're like, what are they gonna do? Like, I don't want to know what they're gonna do. It's just logic. Why do you argue with me? Like, I'm not like impolite, but I'm just like, you don't, why do you make me force me to hang out with them? And so like I can see through people, but also, even if they're not like evil or whatever, that extreme, because we also tell ourselves a story, and people, for instance, tell me a lot that they're boring. Like I meet people, I'm like relentlessly curious. And if somehow I'm like drawn to you, like I'm that person who was like at a party, and because I'm a 4-6, like I will just merge into the wall. I want to be in my little small circle. I want to like snatch a person. And I'm just like, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. Oh yeah, that person. I'm gonna be friends with that person. I know. I don't know why, but I'm just gonna beeline over there, start in the middle of the conversation, and now we're best friends. And then I just like drag them over to the other room. We're gonna sit on the couch. We have a one-on-one. That's like what I do. Like I like to be very selective, to really, I don't know, honor myself more, but also find the other person, because then they can show who they are. Like I can hold space for them and they can share their story. And I'm really good at helping them actually talk. And I don't know what it is. A lot of people actually told me that I'm really good at like getting people to talk and like feel comfortable. And even so, again, with me not knowing I was a manifestor, when I was traveling, especially, the most random people would just come beeline to me. I was sitting on a park bench eating cookies, and this woman came just at me, and she sat next to me and she told me her life story. I'm like, ma'am, I'm eating a cookie. It was not a nice life story. It was horrible and tragic and gory.
To
I'm like,
me, yes, that
ma'am.
happens to me all the time. I call it projectile vomit. And there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do about it. So I just,
Oh,
send them blessings, and then I
yeah.
have to learn when to exit. It's
Yes.
like you're there and you're a 4/6 and my husband's a 4/6 too. So the
Mm.
four being that I'm also not an expert in human design, but I am an expert in hypnosis. But as
Mm.
I'm learning about my human design since 2016, and learning about the people around us and now applying it to business, it's been such a fascinating journey. But my
Yeah.
husband being a 4/6, he's like you. He's able to see, look at the top and look at the bottom and see what's happening and then go
Mm.
down, and he's the networker. So
Yeah.
being the right angle cross of being able to see through. I love how tell us a little bit about your photography, okay? Because
Mm.
I love
Yeah.
how it
Let's
really
tie to that.
aligns with your photography. And we talked a little bit about how people are repelled by a manifestor's energy.
Hmm.
I'm trying, I've adjusted my mindset and seeing that as a blessing and
Yes, it
learning
is.
that it has nothing to do with me. And people who might come up to me and say, "You're intimidating." I've had this
Yeah.
happen so many times. I'm just
Oh, yeah.
eating
Tell me
lunch
about it.
or having a conversation with somebody, and somebody would just come up and say, "You're intimidating." And I would take it so personal, like, what did I do
Oh, yeah.
wrong? You know what I mean? It's got to be me,
Also, like,
right?
why would I
It
need
is
to
me, it's
know
my
this?
energy, but it's how they're reacting. And so I
Yeah.
just quietly say in my own mind, by informing, but
Hmm.
informing without speaking the words, I'm not
Oh,
intimidating, you're intimidated. And so as
yeah.
soon as I adjust that, it's almost like they're pew out of my energy
Good. That's
box. You know what I'm
exactly the
saying?
purpose. That's the point. That's like what I've realized. Because like all my life I've had these people, and then with the people pleasing, trying to like, what can I do to make you like me? What did I do? Like, and then they
There's
either like
nothing.
they will never like you, but they
It's
might
the
actually take
hardest lesson
advantage
to
of it.
learn.
Right. And I still remember like when I was in primary school, like the first day of second grade, a new student came in and I was like, oh, I don't want you to feel lonely. I know what that feels like, blah. And so I went to her, be like, you want to be friends? And she looked me up and down, just like, okay. And then as we were walking, she came up with a list. She's like, if you want to be my friend, here's what you need to do for me. I'm like, what? Excuse me?
You
Like,
don't tell a manifestor what to do.
I was so like even at that point, exactly, even at that point when I was like, I just wanted her to be happy. Like I felt like so horrible, but I was also like, no, absolutely not. I didn't know where that came from, but I was like, hell to the no. But
Fascinating.
yeah,
Your
so
photography.
now, yeah, my photography. Oh yeah, the segues, the ADHD segues. So what I realized with the penetration and with me being able to see people and being able to visualize things is that when people tell me about themselves or like show themselves, I'm really able to capture that, capture their essence and reflect it back in a photo or in a video. Because one of the hardest things for anybody is really to have this kind of distance to ourselves. We look in the mirror, we only see a fraction of ourselves, and we only ever see possibly like more still images. That's why usually selfies look a little bit off because you're trying to capture this one moment where you're not shaking, but you're too close, literally too close to the camera, you're distorted. And so when people see you, they usually see you in action when you're laughing, you're smiling, you're talking. And that's what they love, your energy, especially when your passion comes across, you light up. And you don't know what that is like until somebody maybe films you or photographs you, and if they know what they're doing, they can actually make it look really good. If they don't know what they're doing, it can make you feel more awkward and insecure. And what I realized, what frustrated me when I do like in-person photography, is that I would have these fun photo shoots. We had great time. The photos turned out great. I'm really proud. I show them to them. And then they just zone in on their perceived flaws. Like, oh, my nose is so big. I don't like my ears. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you want me to do? Like, I put my heart and soul into it. You're gorgeous. I don't know what you're seeing. And I can't make people take the compliment, right? Like, you can't force your manifest like to initiate people, like initiate being your beautiful self, love yourself. I can't. And so I realized last somebody introduced me to virtual photography, and most people have never heard of it. I hadn't. And so I instantly was like, that's my new thing now, my identity. Thank you. And I started doing it so much that I realized the more and more I do it, how much it can actually also support all of that. Because
What's
this
it called
way,
again?
virtual photography, which means basically
Virtual
you and
photography.
I could do a photo shoot right now. We're on different continents. We could
Gotcha.
still do it.
So we don't have
And
to be in the same room. You can do photography like on Zoom.
yeah, like that, but only it's your phone camera that I can tap into with an app. So we're connected that way. And I use the back camera so you don't see what's going on. You only hear my voice. My voice is going to tell weird stories to keep you entertained because I want people to be in their body, not in their head, because that's what happens when you go to a photographer. You're like, how do I look? How does this pose look? I feel awkward. Like this feels, you're just in your head, and I need you to not be in your head. And then you see somebody with a camera, you're like, oh no, fancy shiny equipment. Don't mess this up, right? And so with virtual photography, you're just in your comfort zone. Like you can be in your garden, on your couch, in your home. Like even when you go on a trip, like this is a beautiful hotel room. I want a photo session with somebody who knows what they're doing. Maybe not my husband. I don't know. And so we can connect. And then you have this wild experience where there's just this floating voice in the air telling you things, and you just have to trust the process. And because it is so silly, and I'm very silly, you have this weird inner child experience where you just unleash it, and I will like tell a story and you embody it. Like, oh, you're a princess now, and you're like in a twirly gown. Is it like silvery? Is it sparkly? Is it like, what is it? And you're like, I don't know, like pink. And like, oh, that's great. But there's a dragon coming up. What do you do now? And you're like, I don't know, cuddle it. And you're like, that's awesome. The dragon turns into a cat. And you're like, oh my God. And so I make people pose without telling them to pose. And this way they don't even know that I'm taking a gazillion photos, like usually 300 an hour. And so they have all of these. Yes, I take a lot. Also, because of the delay, I want to make sure I actually get really good ones. And yeah, so they have this fun exercise. And what I also do on top of all of it, so we can just do a regular photo session for branding, for headshots, for family photos. But I have this thing where I like to go on Photoshop and I edit it into a portrait that is very artistic. So I dig up like all of like old artists, um, you know, classical portraits, whatnot, and I just splice it all together and put you in like gown and a crown, and suddenly you're in a field of orchids and you're ethereal. Maybe you're a fairy queen with wings. Maybe you're like a badass villain with a cat. And I just try to emulate what I felt about the person, what their vibe is. Like some people can read auras. I can feel the vibe and I just let it through me. I don't know what I'm doing technically. Like my creativity is just there, and I just like see what works. And I'm like, yeah, this feels like the person. I look at it, I'm like, that's an art piece. Okay. And I show them to the women in front of my camera, right? And they are just shocked in a good way. And that way they cannot zone in on their flaws, but they for the first time really see this is me. Like I'm really that badass. Like I'm really that awesome. I'm like, yes. Do you get it now? Do you get what you feel like to other people? So like that is a way I use this penetration cross,
I
like
want
I see it.
one.
You can
I want
have one. Hire
one. Oh my
me.
gosh, I want one. That sounds
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
fun.
It is fun. Yeah. We can do it, absolutely. And my favorite way to do it is just a white wall and a bed sheet, which is so awkward? Or like, I mean, if you have a gown, that's great, but it's like a canvas for me? So it's really you're surprised. You don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna happen. It's completely intuitive, the spleen. Yeah.
Very cool. So you have a freebie that we're going to be linking in the description. Tell us
Mhm.
about this freebie.
So basically, because most people have never heard of virtual photography, and then they're usually kind of intrigued about it, but like most people are like, yeah, I like things, and then I just move on with my day. I just wanted to show people actually what it is, what it can do to help them understand it, because it's sometimes hard to wrap your head around it until you do it. Then you're just like, oh, it's like Zoom. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's just something that needs to click. And so I made this guide to help you figure it out, because you can do these apps, you can download them for free. Maybe, do a photo session with your best friend who lives across the state. I don't know. And then you just try it out. And there's some tips in there about, how to look better, like what to look out for, because it is different than having a DSLR photo, right? There's more creative limitations. But for me, that sometimes really helps me push my creativity up a notch.
I love
And
that you call them
yeah,
creative limitations because you can
yeah.
get creative with limitations.
Yeah, I learned, especially when I was traveling like 8 years full time, that always something goes wrong. That's just my number one rule. You take photos or videos, something will go wrong. And until it does, I'm just like, when is it gonna happen? Okay, now I can breathe. Like now I have this block. Okay, what do I do with it? Like you can't make people disappear when they're in your space or the sun doesn't come out. Like what do you do now? You can moan about it, or you can just like, okay, I can work with this. What do I need to do now? Right. And we all have cognitive limitations when we take selfies of sorts, which is why people are like, I don't look good. I'm like, yes, of course you don't look good because of technicalities, not because of you. You're beautiful. But I don't know how to, tell you that sometimes little tweaks make the biggest impact. And so I put together like a little guide to make it a little bit more
Yes, they're
accessible,
putting
but
their
not
whole
overwhelmed.
worth in the value of the picture,
Right.
right?
And it's just a snapshot, and it's not even necessarily a good one because, you can only do so much by yourself. Even I do self-portraits all the time with my professional camera and like with my scent and my knowledge, but even that is super frustrating to me. And I only do it because I get like the weirdest ideas at like 11 p.m. Can't pull out a model out of my pocket, so I have to do it myself. Like the other day I got this idea bubble wrap and goldfish. And it wouldn't leave me alone. I was like, Kenya, I want to go to sleep. It's like bubble wrap and goldfish in my brain. I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to do it. And then I just did this photo shoot. And then I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just like covered myself in bubble wrap. And then I was just pretending as if I was looking around in an aquarium. And then I photoshopped it. And I was like, now it makes sense. It doesn't make logical sense. It's just
I
really
want to
fun
see
to look
that.
at.
Can you send me a copy of that? I'd
I
love
will
to.
send it to you. Yeah, it just looks like I'm an astronaut, but not in space, but in the ocean. But I'm like a trash mermaid because I'm dressed in like bubble wrap.
Bubble
Yeah,
wrap.
yeah.
Very
It's pretty
cool.
though. It's pretty. I don't know what to like interpret it, but sometimes you have to follow the freak to get the creative flow. And if you keep ignoring it, and that's also like a really important lesson I want people to remember. Everybody is creative. You're creative, whatever that may mean. Everybody's creative in different ways. And we're as adults, we tend to be more boring to fit in. And I wanna smash that. That's my mission
Yeah,
in the world. I'm like, business needs to be fun and playful. You need to attract the right kind of people. If they do not see you, how will they find you? And everybody looks the same on LinkedIn, So be you, you naturally stand out. But sometimes you need another person to show you what that even means. And
I
sometimes it
am the
can be really
queen
fun.
bee.
Yeah, you are the queen. Oh my gosh. Yeah, show me, show everybody. You deserve it. And then, like, to circle back to what you said with the repelling, you want to repel people. It is really good when you do that because then they can't waste your time.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I'm okay with being the bitch sometimes.
Yeah.
In such
And
a
you
nice
can't
way.
control the
No,
narrative.
thank you, with a smile.
Right.
Bye-bye.
And just being a woman usually also labels you much quicker. So, no, we don't want the people who label you that. So then they actually say who they are. You don't need somebody with a cross of penetration to see that they're an a-hole. So they can be like, gone. You want them
So how
gone.
can people find you?
I like on most channels everywhere. If you find my name, you usually find me. I'm very unique that way. My favorite place currently to hang out is LinkedIn and TikTok. But, if you want me to find me on Instagram or Facebook or even YouTube, find my name. I'm sure the links will also be down below. So yeah, and if you
Awesome,
just want
thank
to
you.
connect and talk to me, I'm always open for networking. Like I have a little Calendly link for chatting.
Very cool. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you.
Thank you. And reality designers, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you loved, and I want to know what you would love more of. And in the meantime, keep being amazing.
Definitely. Bye.